final, that means you cannot override the method. That means you cannot override the method. You know, final method, final keyword can be applied to 5 places. Okay, I have already started this question in my Viva. How many places final keyword can be applied? Some people could give correct answers, some people could not give. Final keyword can be applied to 5 places. Number 1, instance member. Number 2, class variable, that is static. Number 3, local member. Now when you when you use final keyword with any variable, instance member, class variable, local variable, meaning is same. Meaning is final must be initialized, and once initialized you cannot modify its value. Final keyword can be applied to method also, member function also. So what does that mean? When the method is final, you cannot override that method. So you cannot have a specific version of that method. So demo 15 will be error. Yeah. Cannot override final method.
So can you repeat these 5 places of final keyword?
I have already given in day 1, day 2. Final keyword can be applied at 5 places. See, temp May, day 2. Final info. ये ना?
Yes sir, yes sir.
हाँ. Okay. Now here, base class method is final. So child class cannot override that. Sub1 S1 is equal to new sub1 S1 dot display. This display will be called. I mean, if you don't override, now you have overdone, so that will give you error. Now the question here is, suppose you have written base class, and your client has written child class, or client is going to write child class, whatever it is. If you don't make method final, that means your client who is going to write child class of your class can override. If you make your method final, so that means your client who is going to write child class of your class cannot override. So my question to you is, what will you do as a developer? You will make your method final or not?
No.
So as a developer, you will not make your method final.
Sir, it depends. It depends.
हाँ, ये जो it depends है ना, हाँ, ये जो it depends है, वो क्या है? It depends क्या? What?
It depends upon what is the priority of the member function. अगर वो करना ही है उसमें without any changes तो final करो, और अगर उसमें specialization नहीं देना है तो final मत करो.
Correct. So as a developer, you have to take a call. But not only you have to take a call, ऐसा नहीं, you can always take a call. You are the boss. You are developer. But you should be able to convince your client. Client convinced होना चाहिए. If client does not get convinced, so client will not come to you next time. So when you realize that, or when you have that confidence that my method has got that everything which can work in any given scenario. My method has got everything which can work in any given scenario. So with confidence, you can make your method final. And when client asks you why your method is final, I'm not able to override, you should be in a position to answer that client or explain that client or convince that client कि बाबा ऐसा है, इसके लिए my method is final. That client should get convinced. Oh yes, I got your point. Thank you very much. ऐसे करके वो जाना चाहिए. But if you're not confident that your method may work in some scenarios, may not work in some scenarios. It requires specialization. It has to have a special version. Then don't go for final. Then don't go for final. Okay. Who is our parent class? You write one class, I will write some class. We write n number of classes. By default, who is our parent?
Object class.
Object class. That object class is defined by whom? Object class is defined by James Gosling. Yeah. Understand one thing. Afterwards, we are going to discuss that point. Understand one thing. Inside object class, there are some methods which are not final. Inside object class, there are some methods which are not final. That means we can override. Whereas inside object class, there are some methods which are final. That means we cannot override. And now here, if we go to James Gosling and ask him why your methods are final, he is in a much better position to explain us why his method is final. Because those methods have got everything which can work in any given scenario. That's why they made those methods final. Whereas some methods, they felt that, अरे नहीं, इसका specific version भी हो सकता है. So they did not go for final keyword, final method. So I say, final keyword shouldn't be misused. You have to take a call, but you should be in a position to convince your client why your method is final.
So we can override the string class, sir.
Sorry?
So we can override this James Gosling classes if it is not final.
See, when you by default you derive your class from object class. By default, object class is your parent. So when we discuss afterwards, when we discuss object class and its methods, at that time we'll discuss which methods we can override. And in some topic like multi-threading, you will get to know that which methods of object class you cannot override because they are final. Okay. So demo 15 में error है, so obviously demo 16 में इसका solution. Solution is what? Not to override. So this will compile. This will compile and run also. Base display. Output is base display. Clear? Demo 17. Okay. Final keyword can be applied to class as well. What if class is final? If class is final, that means you cannot inherit that class. That means you cannot create child class of that class. So demo 17 will give you error. And now here the same explanation. As a developer, why will you create your class final? If you realize that your class cannot have a child, your class contains everything, which can work in any given scenario. There's no special version of that class required. So in that case, you can go for final class. You should be able to convince your client again here. So in Java, James Gosling and his team, they have developed some classes which are final. String class is final. All wrapper classes are final. Because they felt that there cannot be a specific version of those classes. So they made those classes final. So final class is that which cannot be inherited. Demo 18. Okay, demo 18 is same as demo 13. Class base overridden method, void display. Class sub1 extends base overriding method. Even though see comments are not written, you should practice that. Base class display overdone, sub1 display overriding method, sub1 s1 is equal to new sub1 s1 dot display. Let us recall again. S1 dot display for compiler, S1 belongs to sub1, S1 is of type sub1. So compiler will check display method in sub1. Is it there? Yes. Is it accessible? Yes. So compiler will write instruction for runtime to follow. What is that instruction? During runtime, check the content of S1. That means where S1 refers to, and invoke that content object. So during runtime, what will happen? S1's content is sub1. So sub1's method will be called. Demo 19. Okay, already we have discussed this point, but what does that mean? Void display, and in sub1 void display end k. Now this will not be error, but this will not be treated as overriding. This will be treated as overloading. So this display, which does not accept any parameter, will come in sub1 in addition to its own method display end k. So there are two display in sub1. One which is inherited from parent without argument, and one is own method which has got int argument. So that way it is overloading.
Sir, what will be the output?
कौन सा display call होगा without parameter? Base display.
Base display it will give the output.
Yeah.
Because we haven't passed the parameter in that. If we
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
the parameter, then sub will be get printed.
Perfect. Oh. Base display.